Welcome to Mind Myself. I am so thrilled to introduce you to this practitioner who's now a part of our tribe. She is Sarah Griffiths, the animal synergist. Sarah, so glad you're with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Wonderful. So tell us a little bit about your credentials, how you came to do what you do, why you love it.
Okay. It's a long story, but I'll try to keep it short. So I have been a animal nutrition specialist for dogs, cats, and horses for the past probably 20 years. I'm also a clinically trained homeopath and have a 4-year diploma. And I've kind of, over time, I've worked in a lot of different settings. I worked at commercial raw pet food companies and veterinary clinics, zoos, conservation projects for wildlife, lots of different wildlife sanctuaries. So I have a really broad view on animal nutrition from a species appropriate point of view. So I started with wild animals and then moved into domestics rather than where most people start in domestics and move into something more specific. So it has helped me to understand that species appropriate nutrition is the most important and fundamental thing for not only animals, but also for people as well.
Totally agree with that. And what makes you so passionate about this? I've worked with you before, and I know that you just care so deeply about all of this. Why are you so passionate about it?
Well, I guess when I was younger, I think just seeing the difference that it made for my animals, I decided that I wanted to go on the journey of not having my animal or my dog in particular eating dry food or processed food. I just didn't feel right about it. So I kind of went looking for a way to not do that. And I ran into a lot of pressure from my veterinarian and from other people I had talked to that said, it's just not good for your dog. You're going to hurt your dog. You need to feed like this balanced and complete processed food. And I was like, I don't really think that that's true. And I just felt in my gut that I could do better for him. And he is such a huge part of my life. And I wanted to feed him the way I kind of feed myself. So I went on a journey, and it turned out to be a very long journey. And in the midst of that, I learned how, it kind of fell into that holistic realm. And then I ended up with a lot more passions out of that because I got introduced to Julianne Lee from Adored Beast Apothecary, and I trained under her for quite a number of years. She's also a homeopath and had a veterinary clinic. So we delved into everything from herbology to homeopathy, nutrition, all of that stuff. And it really kind of solidified that clinically I could see that it was so much more valuable than the mainstream way of doing things. So
I love that. And I also know Julianne Lee, as you know, and the Adored Beast Apothecary. Cannot recommend their products highly enough. All of them. And I work with her too. So yeah. Awesome. So describe the kinds of clients, both human and animal. I know you focus on animal, but that you most like to work with.
I like open-minded. That's basically my criteria. And it seems to be that I've been really, really lucky that most of my clients come and they already have been doing their own research. They've been experimenting a little bit with their dog or their cat or themselves. And they're using their intuition to navigate how they should proceed with nutrition or healthcare or wellness or whatever they're doing. And I just have a lot of years behind me, a lot of experience, some clinical, like quite a bit of clinical experience. So I can help them navigate pieces that maybe they're not really quite sure about, or they're just beginning their journey on. And, but basically my main thing with people is just, you know, open-mindedness and willingness to be intuitive and to try new things, and also to, like, you know, only take the parts that make sense to them or feel right to them. And I'm just kind of like a tool or a team member, but they're the ones kind of driving the ship. So I'm happy to hold people's hands, and I love sharing and educating. Obviously, that's like my favorite thing to do, but I really love it when people are, you know, taking the reins and making these choices for their animals, which oftentimes converts into some self-awareness to start doing that for themselves, which is why it's so awesome when you can care for like a child or a dog or a cat, and then you realize, oh, wow, you know, there's so much of this stuff that I can apply to myself and make myself healthier. And that just is like the reason why I do it. It's the best feeling ever.
That is so great. And it's so true. I've seen so many people spend a lot of time and effort and money and resources on their animals, and then not apply the same thing to their human wonderful self. And so I love that you've shared that as well.
Yes.
What does an initial session look like with you?
So I have packages that they're all listed on my website at theanimalsynergist.com. I have a consultation page. I do specifically a lot of animals that have chronic conditions. I often end up having to consult on that front because a lot of people find me because their animals are having some specific sort of stress. So I do a initial consultation, which is a Zoom call. It's generally, the first one is usually around an hour and a half. And then after that, they're provided with a full report, usually about 5 or 6 pages of recommendations for diet, supplements, homeopathics. And then generally I'll see them again in about 2 to 3 months, depending on the animal. And then in that time period, I really like to hear from people on a regular basis, depending on the severity of the case. I like to hear from people more often if we're being more proactive with homeopathics and all of that. So it can be a very intensive process for the first few months until we sort of get an equilibrium going. The more feedback I get from the clients, the better we can kind of fine tune things, and the faster we can fine tune things. So I really like to keep that line of communication open at the beginning. And then as we get further along and we do the follow-up, we kind of fine tune a little bit more. And then usually people will see me every 3 to 6 months after that, or more often, depending on the client. But there's a little bit of a process there. So the package that I do is the first consultation plus the follow-up, because I like people to commit to not just the first consultation. I want to be able to follow up and make sure that what we're doing is working.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Now, you've mentioned dogs, cats, and horses. I know you love all animals, but do you have a particular favorite? And I've seen you work with them and they love you too. But do you have a particular favorite that you're kind of focusing on right now, or not?
I would say probably horses at the moment. I have like a million animals of my own, so I work with all of them every day. But horses in particular, I recently started a venture with Adored Beast Apothecary on the equine front. So we've been formulating some equine specific supplements, and I've been able to use them clinically as well over the last 1.5 years or so. and lots of playing around with like species appropriate care for horses, because in dog and cat world, that trend has sort of taken off. More people are recognizing that fresh food is very beneficial, and there's so much access to education and food, and even commercially there's lots of raw food out there for pets. But on the horse front, it's still really in the dark ages, and there's not a lot of information even from the authorities on what horses are supposed to eat, other than from a package fortified, highly processed food and forage. And there's so much that can go wrong in that realm. And we see that in dogs and cats. They have specific pathologies that are connected to nutrition. And horses, I'm finding they have totally different pathologies, but they have a lot of nutritionally related diseases as well. So that's kind of what I've been focusing on, but it's using all of my experience from working with all the species I've worked with, and now just applying it to horses in a templated form that, now hopefully I can start to help them a little bit more.
Absolutely. And tell us a little bit about Adored Beast Apothecary. I know there's a focus on probiotics and prebiotics and gut health. Just say a couple of things about that, please.
Yeah, so Adored Beast, I guess they would say, and I generally talk about them as kind of the gut health experts. They're really, really great on, basically most diseases that animals are dealing with these days. And a lot of people, from metabolic to skin disease to organ diseases, cancers, are all, there's a big gut component to all of these issues. And so by focusing on gut health, you can actually clear up the picture so that you can see what the next stage is and what they also need help with. Because if you've got a dumpster fire going on in the gut, it will bleed into every other part of their health. And it's going to be really hard to see what they're really struggling with besides that. So it's always a good idea in the beginning to focus on healthy diet. And then Adored Beast has an amazing set of supplements for all different types of problems, and you can use those with healthy diets to create a really healthy gut system, and then go on from there as to whatever the animals need.
So awesome. I know I've taken some of those Adored Beast products myself, even though they're technically for the animals. They're just so awesome. And food really is the foundation of good health. We can't say that often enough. It really is.
Yeah, there's no magic pill. Nutrition is difficult too, because it is really individual. So
yeah, for sure. What do you do, Sarah, in your life to stay healthy?
A combination of fairly practical things. So I'm very, very big on growing my own food. So that's not something that everyone can do, but I'm very grateful that I'm able to do that. So I do try to encourage people to even grow, a couple pots of their own food if they can, especially like lettuce and things like that, which are not only really expensive these days, but also like so much more nutritionally valuable and clean when you're growing them yourself. It's also so nourishing for your soul to grow your own food. It's just, I can't really explain it unless you've ever grown something for yourself and eaten it, but it is
totally agree.
A spiritual process in itself. So that's something, and I really love like playing in the dirt and gardening and all of that stuff too. So that's something that really helps me. Lots of sleep, making sure I'm sleeping properly, eating as little chemical input as possible, and focusing heavily on my mental health, like spiritual health, I'm always, exploring that with books and podcasts and, lots of self-exploration and using my intuition, which is what I teach all of my clients to do. I encourage people to learn how to do that because I don't want to tell people what to do. I want people to learn how to have this power in themselves, because everybody has it. And sometimes we just don't know that we have it. So, my experience in my own life from a very young age was I really had a bad experience with medical doctors from a very young age. So I had a lot of mistrust there. And then I felt like I had to really take back my power and figure out how to take care of myself as much as humanly possible. So this is kind of where it all stems from, is like, even though it was a bad situation, it made for such an empowering journey where, I hope that I can share that with other people so that they can trust themselves, because that's really all it is. It's like trusting yourself and actually feeling yourself and knowing what's right for you or your animal. Really,
I love it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's simple, but not.
I totally agree. That's what we're all about at Mind Myself, helping you become your own best health advocate.
Yeah.
So that's just right along in line with our philosophy. And I know you also do a lot of horse riding and walking, because you have a dog and a horse and some chickens and a bunch of cats. And
physical exercise for sure. And it has to be exercise that you love to do. I personally hate going to the gym and I never want to go there. So I have made an effort to try a lot of different activities that I want to do. So it's easy for me to exercise. It's easy for me to get out there and do it. I don't have to, have any resistance towards it. And I think that's important too, is to pick the intensity level and the type of exercise that's going to kind of feed your soul, not just your body.
so true. Well, Sarah, this has been so wonderful. What would you like to say to somebody watching today? And what would you like to leave them with?
Well, my whole thing is, like I said, it really is feel like it's my job to remind people that we have way more power inside us than we think that we do. And you shouldn't ever take somebody else's opinion of what you need or what you should do. It should be a positive input, but it shouldn't be the final say in how you decide to care for yourself or your animals. It really is, when it comes right down to it, it's your body, it's your animal, it's your choice, and you should feel completely safe and trust yourself to know what the right solution or answer is for you and your animals.
What a fantastic way to end. Sarah, thank you so much for being part of the Mind Myself team. I'm thrilled to know you as a person, and it is wonderful to have you in our community. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Esther. It was great to see you.